Hello, hello, and welcome to Creating Creative Tables in Affinity Publisher. I'm having a quick look at the chat just before we start. No, it's not Master Pages, that's next week, don't miss that one. And hello to each and every one of you in the chat. Hopefully, that'll be my 30 seconds and somebody can tell me that I'm live. Excellent. And we can get going straight away with it. Right, I need to push some buttons at my end to make it work properly. And when I've done that, we will be getting into tables in Affinity Publisher. So, button pushed, I think I am good to go. So, as I say, hello and welcome. We're going to be looking at all things tables. But not just boring tables. No, we're going to have very exciting tables and some tips and tricks to make even more exciting tables. Right, if you don't, hang on, that's not moving. If you don't know me, I'm Elaine Giles. I have used DTP applications for many, many years, including InDesign and many more before that. Ventura was one of my favourites. So let me know what DTP applications you have used, or is this your first one? Right, we broadcast in 1080p, but YouTube suddenly plays with our mind every now and then. It may automatically have dialed down your quality, but make sure that you are at the quality that you want to watch it at, and we do broadcast at 1080. So cog, lower right hand side of the video, and give that a quick check. While you're down there, you enjoy anything today, do give us a like. It really makes a difference with YouTube. So, tables. They've got a bit of a bad rep, haven't they, as being pretty boring. But tables don't need to look like tables often do look. And I think that's because people don't really know what to do with them to jazz them up. But what started life looking like that can look like that. That's quite an old thing that I did, but shows what you can achieve with tables. Nothing clever there, just tables. Didn't even merge any cells or anything like that. But that's a comparative type of table. And all I did was use like a wingding font to get a dot and use different colours. But you can see at the top level, I've even managed to put in 3 different levels of detail. So that was one I did quite a while ago. They can also be incredibly complicated, but still provide you with information and look good in publisher documents. So something like a comparison between 3 car models there. Now, I'm not going to build that one today. We'd be there all day. But I promise what I will build will be interesting. So keep the chat going while we head off into Affinity Publisher, which is there and it is ready. It's just playing with my mind again. So it is there. I've got most of it on other screens. You're not going to, are you not? Okay, then we'll do that. Right, we'll make a new document and that'll sort it out. Right, what was I actually starting with? Right, we'll get... we've gone blank again, but we do have an A4 there. So I'm just going to go into that and make that full screen and show you what we've actually got in terms of tables. Right, we have a table tool. That's the first stop in Affinity Publisher when you're working with tables. So over on the left hand side where you have all of your tools, which are there, all of them there, it is this one that actually does handily look like a table. So you click on that. Nothing seems to happen, but it does change your mouse pointer into a table creation tool. Right, but you need to know what's going on here with this. So when I click and drag it out, I start to get a table. And I'm being given that overlay that says W, which is the width, height, which is the height, and then the number of columns, which at the moment is 1, and the number of rows. And the further I drag, so I'm dragging downwards, so I'm getting lots of rows. If I start dragging across, I start to get more columns. But you can see I've already filled the page. And what if I wanted 10 columns? Well, you can keep dragging and you will eventually get to 10. So we've got 10 columns and 60 rows at that point. Or you can do it a different way. So if that's all a bit tricky, just drag and drop a table. And what you then have is once the table is active, which this one actually is, so what I'm going to do is just move it down a bit. But once we double click it, you get the row headings down the side, your 1 to 13, and your A to E across the top for the columns. You can, with these little arrowheads that are underneath the columns or by the side of the rows, underneath the rows or by the side of the columns, you can click on there and it gives you a popover. And the popover will allow you to change, in this case, because it's to the side of the columns, the number of columns. You can either dial it down, so now we've got 2, dial it up, so you've got the 10 that you wanted, or you can double click in it and actually type a number in. So put 5, press enter, you've got 5 columns. Obviously, rows work exactly the same. So clicking on there, you get your popover, and you can add rows, you can take rows away, or you can actually go in there and put however many rows you would like. That's about as basic as they get. Okay, everything beyond that is like, it could confuse you. Right, but what we've got, that's a basic table now. That looks pretty much like we had on that opening slide. Very, very basic. But this is where the fun actually starts. So, one thing I don't like when you're demoing things is where it looks as plain as that and you're just saying, oh, and you could do this and you could do that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to go and get a file that I want to put a table in. So, let's go get the data. Right, the first one's a very basic thing that I'm going to do, but I'm putting it in this document. So this document is a medical brochure. Okay, so very highly designed. And down here, I have a page which is just for fun. And I want to put something in that's just for fun. So I'm going to need a reference. So I think I've got that over there. Did I put that in as a reference? I did. Amazing. Right, so I want a table, and I happen to know that this table that I want is 9 columns by 9 rows. So I go get my table tool. I want it to fill about that space. And you can see we've got that problem again that we've got 2 columns and 13 rows. I could drag this out, so I've got 9 by 9. Now, luckily, this is a spread, so it doesn't shoot off into the darkness. So I will drop it there like that. It's obviously not the right size because I would not want a table that looked like that. But what I will show you is that you have sizing handles here. I'm coming out of the table tool, first of all, to show you that the sizing handles work exactly the same as you would expect it on any other element. So you can just size it in, size it out, make it bigger, make it smaller. Right, obviously at the side, it's doing this up and down or to the side. It's not proportional. The corner ones should make it proportional, shouldn't they? So if I do that, that should be proportional. Now, when I say proportional, if you look at it, it's not unless you hold the shift key down. And then it is proportional. But what that corner one is doing is letting you resize the whole thing. So whether you want to drag it down and make the whole table smaller, or whether you want it wider, you can do that with the corner one. But if we look on the right hand side, it's all a bit odd. There's 2 on the right hand side. So even without the table tool selected, which we don't have that selected at the moment, we can still do quite a lot with tables. So we can scale up and down, scale side to side. If you hover in just the right place, you will get 2 arrows, one pointing to the right and one pointing to the left. That will enable you to skew it. If for whatever the reason you would like a table that looked like that, you can skew it. You can also skew it the other way, as long as you're in the right place. So you can skew the table like that. Now, these 2 at the corner behave differently. So this one, the outer one, as I pull that, I'm not holding the shift key down and it's completely proportional. The inner one does something totally different. The inner one behaves just like the outer ones on the other edges. So sometimes you're looking at a table and you think, which of these do I grab and why? Well, this one, the outer one, proportional. It will scale the table. The other ones will, the inner one, will let you change the proportions of it as you scale. So there are two handles. They do have two completely different functions. There's also this white one at the top. Good grief, there's so many controls and we're not even in the table tool yet. This enables you to rotate it. If you hold the shift key down, it snaps in 15-degree increments. So you could rotate your table if you wanted to. You might think, when am I ever going to want to rotate a table? But actually quite frequently. We have in our church newsletter dates at the back and the times of the masses. And it needs to go on an A5 page with the text running from the top edge to the bottom edge. But when we try and edit it, you can't edit it like that. So we just flip it round, edit the text, and then turn it back the way it needs to be displayed. So you might need that. What I'm trying to achieve here, though, is something that's going to be fun. And that is, I want to make a puzzle. And I need square cells. So what we're going to need to do that, I mean, you could go in here and start fiddling, but it's far easier to use some extra table tools. So I am bringing on some more interface here. It looks mighty large because my screen is quite small today. But what we've got here is the table panel. Now, there's more than one panel that controls what a table looks like. And I think this is what confuses people in Affinity Publisher. But the table tool will allow us in here. So I've got these 81 cells. It will enable us to scale. Now, what it can do, I'm going to take you through it from the top. We have a frame, stroke and fill, cell, vertical position, rotation, and baseline grid. Right, let's start from the top. Frame is the largest part of the table that you're going to format with the table panel. So it goes down in terms of specificity. So this one here is the frame. If I wanted to fill the entire frame with a colour, then I could do. That's not what I want to do. I can put a stroke on it. So I don't really want to do that either, but let's do it. Let's do it so we can see it. Let's have it pink. Right, it's putting that on the outside edge of it. It's framing the entire table. Don't particularly want to do that either, so let's take that back. You can also put some insets in, so put some space around it, and you can choose whether to ignore the baseline grid or not. And for this one, I am going to ignore the baseline grid because the rest of the document is highly designed and is using a baseline grid. But my table don't want to use the baseline grid. I want this to be totally separate from that. Then we go down, we get more specific, stroke and fill. So if we were actually in part of this, like this, we could put a fill on just that part of it, like that. We will be doing things like that, but just not at the moment while I take you through this. And then you've got the next level of being specific, which is the cell. Now, this is useful because in here it says width and height. And as I make this table smaller, you can see the height of each cell is changing. If I made it narrower, then the width of each column would change. So I happen to know in here, if I want this square, I would like it to be 10 millimeters. But what that's actually done, as you look at it, it's made one square that size. So if I use Command and A and then go back and make sure this time that I apply this to all of it, now I've got the grid, and you can probably imagine where this is going. But this is what I want for my puzzle. It's going to be a Sudoku puzzle. Now, I happen to know with this what I need to do to make it look correct. First of all, I need this 9x9 grid, which is what I've got. And then I need to separate it, because in a Sudoku, let's double click, that's one block of 9 numbers, that's another, and it's easier on the eye if these are delineated in some kind of way. So I'm going to take the whole of column D, then I'm going to hold the Command key down and take the whole of column G. And that's because on the left-hand edge of each of those columns, I'd like a thicker border. This will make sense when we've done it. But holding down that Command key enables me to do this in one manoeuvre, not two. So in the stroke and fill, I would like the left-hand edge, which is this button here. So there's all these buttons, but the left-hand edge, it will then get highlighted in like a deep blue to tell you any change that you make from now is going to apply to the left-hand edge of all of those cells. So in here, with our half-point border, I'm going to take that up to a 1-point border, like that. When we click away, you can see it has made a difference. It's subtle. We could get away with more, but we'll leave it like that for the moment. Because the next thing I want to do is put the ones in on the cross. So this time it's row 4, hold the Command key, row 7. This time it's not the left. If I did the left, we would get, every cell would have that 1-point border on it, which isn't what we want. We want the top edge of this one. So we have a top button here. Click top. You can change the colour if you want, but I do want it black. And then I'm going to change the width to 1 point, like that. And we've got the inside edge done. But it still looks a little strange. It's not right. And that's because on the outside of the whole thing, so the border there, it could do with being much thicker than even 1 point. Take that up to 2 points, 2.5, something like that. 2 looks fine. And just adding some borders has made such a huge difference to that. Now, obviously the next thing I need to do is start putting in my numbers. And you don't want to sit here and watch me type 81 numbers, do you? Just asking. Right, I'm going to put a 1, and we do need an 8 in there. And you should at this point start to see what the issues are. In terms of, it's not centred. It's definitely not centred. So I'm going to put in the top row. That's all I'm going to do. Better not make any mistakes. I think that's right. I'm going to put in the top ones. Now, what I need to do with these is obviously centre them vertically and horizontally within the space. So if you think about this one here, it would need to be vertical in the space, horizontal in the space. But before I do that, I'm actually going to go and get the other numbers. I actually have the other numbers ready. They are down here. And that was what they looked like when I put them in. So I'm going to copy these. I'm not doing anything special at all, just copying them in. Oh, that went well, didn't it? Why are you doing that? Good grief, you didn't do that before. Oh, and that's not working at all. Okay. Right, let's try that again. Maybe it doesn't like the fact there's something already in there. Never mind, they're in the right place. And obviously, if this is the kind of thing that's happening to you and you think, I don't like tables in Affinity, we can fix it all. So go back to 10 and back to 10, and we're back where we were with the data in the cells, but it's still not right. Okay, few things wrong with this. Right, we need it vertically aligned first. Handily, we have a vertical position section of the table panel. And in there, we just need to click vertical alignment and it's sorted out. Now, it's still not right horizontally though. And if you look, we don't have a horizontal position. So, strangely, we have to sort out the vertical position in a table, in the table panel, but you need to sort out the horizontal alignment from the standard text options. So if we look at this, it's set to left align. We set it to centre align, it will centre it within the cell. Now I've had a couple of issues with this. It could be it needs some kind of update. Issues I've had are when I go back and I select everything I just had selected, sometimes this up here goes back to being left aligned. I don't know why, but it will align correctly. Next thing we need to do with that is make it a bit bigger. So I'm going to do that with just the standard size here and take that up to 18. Right, so it's not looking bad, but That's how I'd like the answer to look. But these are the numbers they give you to start with. So since they've given you them to start with, standard in Sudoku is that they tend to be in grey. The numbers are grey and the background is a little bit grey. Luckily we can do that, but obviously we only want to do it where we have a number. So I can obviously select a cell and command and select another cell. But we need this to be as quick as possible. Now, there are ways to make selections in here. That number 1 is on its own. The cell to either side of it, either to the right of it or below, doesn't have a number in, so we don't want it selected. But 6 and 2 are next to each other, so I could select those together. And 8, 2 and 5 are next to each other, so I could select those as well. Or 2, 3 and 4. And that's just using my mouse. But I think the most I could make a selection of using that is probably those 4, or those 4 there. What we need to do is make what's called a non-contiguous selection, which is cells that don't touch each other. So this group of 4 has nothing to do with this group of 6 here. But if you hold the Command key down and draw over them, you can select them. So it's either one click for the ones that aren't linked to anything else, or click and drag for all of the others. And you'll soon get used to that and be able to make selections quite quickly like I'm doing here. So I'll do the 2 and the 4 and then the 8, and there you go, they're selected. Right, once you've got your selection, you are then going to want to change the colour of the text to start with, which is on the font colour. And we want it reasonably dark, so I'm going to go for a reasonably, maybe 50 grey, maybe even more than that. Don't want it black, but something quite deep, like that. And then I want to change the background of the cell. Now, we've looked at stroke, but this also gives us an option for fill, stroke and fill. And it's only going to apply that fill where the text is selected. So in the fill option there, you can see it instantly put a fill in it. You can change what that colour is. Some of these not good. I'm going to use the swatches and I'm going to take a fairly light grey. I want to be able to know that, and we've not got 2 selected there, have we? Oh dear, oh dear. Right, let me grab those. Let me grab them again. I thought I had them all, but let's grab them. All right. And that background's possibly a little dark, or maybe the text needs to be darker. One or the other. Right. I have definitely got them all now, haven't I? So let me apply that colour that we wanted. So let's have that reasonably dark and then we can lighten the background up a bit. Right, and in the fill, let's lighten that up. So about there or there. Okay. And once you've done that, you can afford to click away then, and there is your puzzle. You are, of course, going to need to go back through that and put in the missing ones for the answer, which I have done. I can sit here and do it if you like. If I were to do that, I'm putting in the 7, everything's reasonably lined up because you already applied the centre it vertically and centre it horizontally. But you would still need to do some manual formatting because it's the wrong size. Let's try grab the lot and make the whole thing 18. And that is something that you can do. You don't have to make that strange selection because you want all of the numbers to be the same size. So you can do that. And what does that look like finished without me sitting here? Well, it looks like that. So I've got one that I did before, which I can put up here as the answer. And as you can see, it's identical. The only difference is I sat here and I manually put the numbers in to do it. And you've formatted an entire table. Learning quite a bit about how tables work. With the table panel, the table tool, centering vertically and horizontally, not done in the same place, applying a stroke and applying a fill. But there's still actually more to tables. But do we have any questions right now that can be dealt with?
No.
We've not got a question yet. Okay. I'm hoping there's plenty of chat though.
Peter, there's plenty of chat.
Hang on. I'm going to need to turn you on, Mike. Right, carry on.
No, there's no questions. Plenty of chat. But Peter says, didn't you like the 5 and 4?
No, I completely missed it. Completely blind to the 5 and 4 there. Don't know what happened there. Blind spot. Right, okay. We will carry on with the next one then. Right. What are we doing next? Well, I'm going to save that file for a start. I'm doing all that work and not saving it. So let's close out of that one. I will be bringing panels on and off during this. So I'm getting that one out of the way while we have a look at the next option, which is a photo book. You're wondering, aren't you, with a table in a photo book? But I do have a photo book. And I've even got a photo in it. So let's have a look at the photo book, which is there. Right. We have an issue with the font, which I'm not concerned with. This is actually a template that I got, and I can put photos in it and then information about the photos. And the photo that I'm working with at the moment is this one here. Who can tell me where that was taken? It's an iconic place. It's a real place, but it was used in a film. And obviously you can tell from that it's very old. So you have a ponder at that while we look at the demo. Right. If you are putting together a photo book, it's good practice to put some information about the photo, particularly in terms of the technical information about the photo, if the photo book is for a technical audience. So this is how the template shipped. So I can put a title for the image, and I can put some copyright information in here, and I can do a write-up in there. But the type of information that I'm talking about is, what was the ISO and things like that. Or it's a shutter speed. Right, well, you could...
Got it, by the way.
Has he? Good grief. Carnforth Railway Station. And the film in question was Brief Encounter.
He's got that as well.
Amazing. Right. Actually, I did quite a bit of work with that image. It wasn't sepia in real life. I converted it. But this was taken when we went to visit, which was quite a while ago now, 14 years ago. But I've got the information about that image, and I think it would probably look best if I displayed it in this kind of area here. But there's a good way to display that information that is engaging and a bad way to do that. So if it was in a plain table, it would look like that. It's not bad. Well, actually it is, isn't it? You'd have to be really interested in that information to bother looking at that and taking it in. What if we laid it out better? So that's very linear, top to bottom, and you're done. What if we laid it out in a better kind of way? So what if we did that? That's not much better, is it? But the reason that I've laid it out like that is for a reason. You might think the top one's worse than the bottom, but it's not, because what I'm trying to replicate is that. Why are you scrolling up and down? There we go. That is how it was displayed on the camera. And if a photo book is aimed at a technical audience, they'll be used to reading information like that. If you think about the top option by comparison to the bottom, it might look... See, Mike, who's interested in data in a spreadsheet, would go for the bottom one, because it would tell him that, the value of 100 is an ISO, and what 55 mil is. But if you're a camera person, the top one is far easier to consume. But how close to the top one could we get in Affinity Publisher? So the information we're working with is the bottom one. We're aiming for something that looks like the top one. So I'll get rid of the plain table, and this camera display I will move down. I have already, just for speed, made a table that is 5 columns by 4 rows. And that was simple to work out. Very simple. That was row 1. That was row 2. That was row 3, and that was row 4. So the rows were simple. There were 4 of them. Then it came to the columns. If you looked at the top one, you might think 2. If you looked at the second one, you might think 1. Then you might think 3 for the third one, and 5 for the bottom one. So what I did was make it 5 columns wide. Because I can merge cells. That's easy in Affinity Publisher. And there's an option to separate cells. So what I mean by that is, If I wanted these 3 cells in here to be one cell, I can right click and merge them. Fantastic. What if I wanted this cell to be 2 cells? Well, as I said, why are you not doing that? Hang on. Oh, I might have upset it at the top. Well, never mind, we'll use the table. So I'm in this cell and I want to separate it. In the table, we have merge cells, but I haven't got 2 cells selected, so I can't merge. Looks like I can't separate either. Why on earth not? Because it's one cell. You will only ever find, if I select multiple cells and go back to table, merge becomes available, but separate still isn't there. The only time separate will be available is like that cell there, where we've already merged it. So if you're ever wondering why you can't split a cell, it doesn't have that option. Separate means separate a pre-merged cell. But in this case, I don't think I need to worry about that, because everything will just work out fine. You can see I've got the 5 pieces of information from the bottom row, and then I've just spread the others out correctly. So the auto white balance is in the top right, and then the raw is underneath it, and that underneath that. If I want to move these to the right hand side, I can either right align them or just move this, or I could even center them. They are actually aligning perfectly. These are aligned to the left, which is right, and then these in the middle, they probably need to be centered just to look reasonable. So let's get that back to exactly where it was and start looking about what we need to do in terms of aligning them. So all the ones on the left are okay. I think these 3 and that one need to be center aligned. And remember that happens up here from the text. And these down here probably could be right aligned. We put them in like that. And that's all there is in terms of laying that out. It's the next bit that will make it look like the bit below. So the first thing to think about is the text. The text is black, so it's a little bit too strong. So select all of that, and then what I'll do is actually pick whatever grey this is here. We'll have that. In fact, I can do that from there, can't I? Let's have the grey from there, and that will automatically apply it. Right, hopefully that has worked. Let's click on that to apply it. It's putting a cross through it, isn't it? But it is actually done. It's done. That's not black anymore. There is a distinction between those. Right, so we got the text looking okay, but the table's bad, isn't it? The table's really bad. It's really impacting and making that not look anything like the one below. Now, you remember we have the table panel. The table panel. And this, let's get it over there where we can see it. This enabled us to put a stroke on a table and change the look of the stroke. But in this case, we don't actually want any of them. None of them. So all of these don't need a border. So at the moment, they've got a border. Let's take that border away. So we don't want a border on the outside. We also don't want a border on the inside. So can you see how the lighting up in blue? We could do all of that at once, which is this one here. That will select the outer edge and all of the inner edges. And we don't want, at the moment, that should work. There we go. It doesn't sometimes display properly because it says none, but it already had information in it. So let me just undo that and show you. Go on, bring it back. There you go. They do have lines at the moment. If I click away, we've taken the one off the outside edge. We've not taken the ones off the inside, but this is saying it hasn't got any. Even when we click on that, and it clearly has. So we need to go in, turn it off, turn it on and turn it off again. Oh, typical tech. Turn it off, turn it on again. Right, now we're getting somewhere. Starting to look reasonable. Right, what do we need to do with it next, though? So I'm just making it a little bit smaller and putting it in the centre because we need that to look like this. One option, of course, you're probably screaming at me, is to put in a fill. Would that work? Well, it wouldn't look bad, would it? So let's go in and make a selection of everything. and then go over to the fill, and we can choose the fill from over here and apply it. Not bad, but not great either. Not great because we've actually got a couple of alignment issues as well, which could be all solved another way. But the way it's looking at the moment, it's too square. It does make a difference that we don't have the rounded corners. Who reckons there's a rounded corner option? Put that in there. Put that in there. Well, it's easier than that. No, I haven't found a rounded corner option. And when I mentioned the alignment, it was the fact that all of these cells are aligned to the top, and they could do with being aligned to the middle. Right, so we've sorted that out. You don't even, with this one, need to put a fill on it if you don't want. There is a way to make this work even without a fill. So I'm going to take the whole thing and I'm going to say, no, we don't want a fill. So let's make that transparent. And I know we're back to where we started and it doesn't look great, but it's so easy. We only actually need a shape with rounded corners. A little less rounded than that, so it matches the one below. Move it back in the stacking order so it's behind the table, and then grab it and put it so it's centered with the information like that. And then you can fill that and you have a camera display. This one has a dark background on it because I did this as an image for a presentation many years ago. Okay. Oh, look at you all there. Do you need to put a shape behind it? I'm fractionally ahead of you. I'm 30 seconds ahead. But yes, you are absolutely right. So you could do that with any kind of shape. I don't want the dark background on it. It was just sat on a dark background. But I have my table and I have my shape behind it. So here's my rounded rectangle and here is my camera table. So if I select the two of those in the layers and do a Command and G, now they are a group. And when I move them, they will move together. So I could actually put that there, bring it to the front of the stacking order, and I've now got my information over the top of the image. And a photographer would instantly appreciate that. There we go. So something like that. You could, with the scale of that, make that a little bit bigger. But basically, it will serve its purpose and it looks like a camera. Now that layout is a Canon camera. Pro tip, if you're making a book and it's for Nikon users, we would say Nikon, but I know a lot of people say Nikon, change the display so it suits the camera that the book is being written about and everybody will adore you. And even though that looks less accessible to somebody who is used to just data, if we look at the original plain table and move that graphic out of the way, one, it looks miles better. Always juggling with demos with this because the screen's so tiny, but it looks much better and it's more easily accessible to people who are photographers. I beat you to it, did I, Clyde? but you are paying attention. I'm impressed. So very simple to do. The trickiest part is when you make a table in Affinity Publisher, it always puts the borders on it. But there are things we can do about that. Oh, we can persuade Affinity Publisher to do other things. But that is just a very simple way of, you could do text with that. But I like to keep things in a table so I don't have to think, oh, I've lost a piece of text somewhere. The whole lot is in a table. And it also means that I can apply table formats when we get down to table formats. So the table is like a container for you to put information in that will make life easier later when it comes to formatting a chunk of information rather than individual text boxes that you just happen to have glued together. So, but no one looking at that would probably instantly think, oh, that's a table. They just think that looks really nice, not necessarily a table. Okay, so let's get on to another demonstration. Right, where am I here? Down. Okay, right. With the poster for today, shall I bring that up so you can have a look at it? Because I'm going to try and do this. Hang on. There we go. Need the poster. So I'm moving backwards to the poster. Would be if this mouse was behaving itself. There we go. That's the poster for today. The one on the left, you can probably imagine now, that's not difficult. But the one on the right, Right, so it's the one on the right I am trying to recreate. So let's get out of that and back to where we were. And I'm going to do this completely from scratch. So, new file. I will have it... no, in fact, do we need it A4? No. Tell you what we'll do. Oh, mind, you might want it in a report. We'll do an A4, but we'll do it in landscape. We only need one page at the moment. I don't think we particularly need facing pages with that one, even if we do two. And we'll OK it. Right. So I'm going to do that graphic on here with a table. So the first thing we're going to need is a table. And I'm not going to worry what size that is, because I'm going to need to work that out. Now, when I say work that out, we need to think about here. Remember that you cannot separate cells. So what does that mean? If we go back into here and we'll look at it, how many rows do we need? So down the side, we've got Project Summit, Evaluation, Product Launch and Conference. Do we need 5 rows? Have a quick ponder. And what I would say while you're pondering that is have a look to the right, not the left. So part of your job when you're creating tables in Affinity Publisher is going to be thinking about it before you actually dive in. Because if you dive straight in, undoing what you've done can actually take longer. You're going to need with that 6 rows. The 5 rows with the titles on the left hand side, but if you look at where it says September and then underneath that there's numbers, we can't separate a cell. We can't split it, but we can merge it. So the cell that's going to have project in would be a merged cell between row 1 and row 2. But if we made it that we had 5 rows and then we put the numbers in, we'd be like, there's nowhere to put September. So you'd have to then start again and then start editing it even more. So try and work out in hand what you particularly need. So I know that I'm going to need 6 rows. So I can quickly go in here and change that from 13 to 6. And in terms of columns, well, that's going to depend on whether you want all 31 days displayed on the same thing. Now, on the chart, on the poster, it went to 19. And 19's probably enough for a demonstration, isn't it? So I will change this to 19. But just because it went to 19 days, does that mean I have 19 columns? No, because one of them is for the headings. I need 20. Right, now I'm correct. That's exactly what I need. But it doesn't look anything like I want it to look at the moment. So I'm going to stretch it down. I will probably leave that like that, to be honest. These look tall enough, so that's fine. So let's have a think what we've got up here. We have cell A1. Do we want anything in A1? Not yet. We will do, but not yet. And the thing to think about here is as well, cell A needs to be bigger. Now, can you see what's happening here? As I'm making A bigger, B is all but disappearing. Not good. Hold the Shift key down as you do that, and the rest of the cells move across to make way for it. So let's take that back to the way it was, hold the Shift key down and grab like that. Awesome. If I then grab this just to fill it, it will change all the cells. So if I'd have done that a different way, if I'd have thought, oh, I'll just make this one a bit bigger, that's actually adding stuff. No, that's not what we want. Let's just redo that. But if I grab this, it will scale all the cells. So B to T will stay equal to each other, but not the same size. But they will change all of them. Right, that's not looking bad at all. We're getting somewhere there. Now, I'm still not going to put anything in there. This one up here needs to be, that's where it actually said September. I said September in there. But that's probably far too tall. So what I could do there, if I do that, hang on. If I do that, get that to the height that I want it, and the next one, which only had numbers in it. So this doesn't need to be this wide either. So I could, oh, we've come out of it, right, grab this one and take that one up. Another way of doing that is grabbing everything in the first two rows. So if you need absolute precision, then you can bring on your table panel, and in your table panel here, you can actually set the height of it. So at the moment it's 10.4. If we make that 10, we know they're equal. So now that top one is 20 millimeters. Perfect. Now we can start fiddling with it. So let me put that over there. I don't want to dock it, that's the problem, because I'm going to need to keep moving it, but I want it out of the way. Okay, so what we had in here was the word September. So the first thing we need to do is to merge those cells and put September in there. Obviously not looking great yet, but we're not going to worry about that. And then down here we need the numbers. So let's get those in. Aren't you glad I didn't go for 31? Or in fact, if it's September, would have been 31. There's a mistake that's often made. Right, 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19. Obviously, text isn't formatted correctly. It's not in the right place or anything either, but we will format it all at the end. When we finish at the end. But these two, they had the word project in, but they need merging. And then the word project putting in. So there's project. And then we've got our four other elements down here. So these probably need to be, each of them, the same as the top. Because eyeballing it, they look like that on the demo that I've got here. So if that... I wonder if we can do that. We can do that. So we've got the height set to 10 for each one. If we change that to 15, how does that look? Not bad. And that would mean that each of these would need to be around the 30 mark. So if we make that 30, that should equal it. So it's not quite touching the bottom, but it's not bad. It's close. Right, this one here, this was just a matter of putting text in. So this one said summit and the next one said evaluation. Third one said product launch. Oh dear me, can't type for toffee. And conference. Hey, at least I've not spelled anything wrong yet. Right, there wasn't actually anything in these cells in terms of text. So all the text that needs is already there. All we need to start doing with it is formatting it a bit. So all these labels and headings in here need to be centre aligned. They also need to be centre aligned vertically. And they were actually black, and that text doesn't actually look bad. That font does not look bad. We've got the September one in, need to do the same with that. Centre it horizontally and centre it vertically. There we go. That was much bigger though, because it was actually a heading. So I'll leave it at Arial, but we'll have it at 16. Then we've got all of these here. Exactly the same procedure. They do need to be centred, just like the Sudoku ones did. So 2 places, vertical position in the table panel, and centre aligned in here. Now you see that says it's centre aligned. It's not centre aligned. It goes mad with its little self. I've got these selected. They are not centre aligned. When I click the drop down, it says, yeah, it's left aligned. Well, why isn't the image left aligned then? Because I think I have to click the button, but I do actually have to go in and click the button there. Now, these ones were much, much paler. So we had a grey thing going on there. So let's go get the colour and let's make that fairly, not white, definitely not. We'll go for a mid-grey. There we go, a mid-grey on that. Now, format-wise, this entire box was actually white, but this one was a kind of grey colour. I think it would look better if both of those were that kind of colour. So you're looking at the background fill of those 2 cells. In fact, it's 3 if you think about it, but A1 and 2 are merged. So I'm looking at the background fill, I'm looking to put in a very pale grey. So very, very pale. Possibly even paler than that. Right, so I've got that at the top. You might not remember at this point what this did look like, but each one of these alternated. So we had two completely different greys, but one was on the odd ones and one was on the even ones. So I'll grab these. There's all the odd ones. So I'm going to put a fill in there that was quite pale. Actually, it was darker than the other one, so we could go a little bit darker. Just so you can really see it, otherwise there's no point in having it absolutely perfect, but you can't see a difference. So grab the even ones, and they had a much lighter fill than that. So back to the greys, and get a pale grey, and we should at least be able to see a difference. That's probably too pale, but as long as we can get the principle on this, it's fine. Then we've got the rest of it to do, and the rest of it's really easy, but something is making this not look quite right. Right, this up here would be the project name. So actually, I'm going to put project name in there, and that would be a little bit bigger. Not as big as the title, but bigger. So this one could do with being a bit bigger than it already is. And being black, it is possibly a little bit harsh. Just a bit harsh. So I can take that and change the colour of that from black to one of our dark greys, very dark grey, just not black, and do the same down there. So a darkish grey, just not black, around there, like that. Right, still something not quite right though, and the not quite right is the borders on it. They were there, but they were very, very pale. Very pale. So in here, we need all of the borders. So you see, as soon as you choose the one on the right, all light up. We don't want black. We want something very pale. We need to be able to see it, but we do want it pale. So let's try that at 0.5 and see how it is. And that's just about right. Oh, getting there. I think actually what is wrong with this is the odd numbers. I would say the odd numbers are a little bit too dark in the background. And if we fix that, it would be identical to what was on that poster. So let's go get the background of this and make them a little bit lighter. A little bit lighter. I don't want it to match the other one, but I don't want it to be too dark either. That does look enough to be different. Perfect. Perfect. Now, looking at that, we're almost there. The only thing we need to do now is to add on the bars of colour. The first one for the summit went from the 2nd to the 9th. So literally from there through to the beginning of the 9th. And that was probably about 8 tall, I would suspect. So I'm trying to eyeball that onto there. Although it isn't on this, it actually overruns it. And that one was a lovely pink colour. Lovely, lovely pink colour. So let's get this out of the way so we can see the colours over here. And this time we want not quite that pink. Shall we start with a pink and then make it more bearable? That's a good idea, isn't it? It was more pinky reddy-ish. It's actually quite a deep pink. So somewhere down here. About there, I would say. Okay. Right, we need to make sure that that in the transform over here is actually 8mm. So they are all the same. And it's probably a good idea to round that up to 70. And then what we can do with it is grab that one, Option key held down, and drag it down. The evaluation went from the 5th, and it was actually split. It went over to the 12th, which that one is, and then it started again on the 14th to the edge of the 16th. So let's take it there like that. Now, those weren't that colour though. They were a lightish purple. So sort of that, but lighter. Oh, and they need to be aligned, don't they? To the bottom of each other. That's better. Right, so let's get a colour off there and make that better. More purpley than that. Like that. Possibly a bit lighter. Like that. Okay, then take that one and take it down to about there. That one ran all the way through to the start of the other one. And you can see what happens as I'm doing this. That did snap to it because that one is there. This one's a much deeper purple, but purple's the starting point. I'd say it's a more bluey purple. One of those, like that. Okay, and then the conference is split. So the first one is exactly the same length as that one. So I'm dragging it down like that. And it then carries on to over there and backwards. Perfect. So I need to make sure that these two are lining up. So alignment tools and align them to the bottom. They also need a different colour. They're a kind of turquoisey colour, which is all quite kind of nice. I like turquoise. That's not greeny enough. I think we need to go over to here with a bit of blue. Like that. That's turquoisey. And we've done it. So yes, we have exactly what we had on the poster. The one on the poster did not come from here. It was an image that I found that I thought looked nice, and I glanced at it and I thought, yep, we could do that in Affinity Publisher. So we just have. Do you have to think about anything with this? Anything coming to mind with, when you say autofill, Renee, which part are you talking about? If you mean putting in 1 and 2 and then dragging, no. There's a bit of a debate whether it should do that or not. Now, obviously, I'm with you. That'd be handy. But does it calculate? No. And I've heard people actually use the phrase, please don't turn it into mini Excel. Because the problem with doing that is it gets way complicated. Way, way complicated. And they want to use it for layout, not calculating and all that other kind of stuff. So there are two schools of thought on it, but autofill would be nice. But to autofill, you would maybe have to use one of the corners as the dragging handle. And therefore that then couldn't be used for anything else. So that's the people who are in the camp of I don't want mini Excel, don't want elements in the interface when they're working with a table that are mini Excel, that are allowing you to calculate or add functions to it or things like that. They don't want that. What I was thinking more of was if you're going to use this in some artwork, then you need to be aware that if you grab the table, those shapes don't go with it. So at a minimum, and there are things we can do to fix this, which I will show you in another demonstration, but at a minimum, make sure you've got the shapes and you have at least grouped them. And at that point, when you move it, it will move the whole thing. Okay, so that was a highly designed table, but very easy. So once you've got the basics, the same principles apply to many, many different things that you would attempt to do, including the next one, which I looked at and thought, I don't know about that, but it worked. So first of all, let me save that. That's our project. I have no idea where I'm saving it. No, that's demo ideas. We're not putting it in there. I'm going to put it in the root of that. Okay, let's get rid of that. Right, the next one that I'm going to show you is, this will showcase a lot of the features of tables in Affinity Publisher, including some really advanced ones. So it is something that I found a graphic of, and I looked at this graphic. I'll actually show you the graphic first. And I thought, I wonder if it can do that. Oh, let's get really complicated. So I actually have a copy of that on the first page, but that was the graphic that I was working from. So let's open up Premier League. Where are you? Affinity document, league table. Right, so that is the one we've just seen, right? And what I was interested in was the top half. I wasn't interested in La Liga, just the Premier League one. Right, so what kind of things are we actually looking at when we look at that we might need to think about? Well, one is the number of rows and columns, again. You've got a header row there. You've got merged cells, and you may or may not have more merged cells than you think you have. the obvious one is the one where the Premier League logo is. But there's another one in there for a very good reason. Actually, once I'd finished it, I thought, could have got away with that not being merged. But there was a good reason to do it. So that was what I was working from. And that was what I created in Affinity Publisher. So I think that is pretty spot on. That's real data as well. That's up to Friday. So you can see, obviously, if it was demo data, United would be on top, but they're not. So it's real data that. So how did I start about going about that? Now, the size of this is 1280 by 720. That doesn't matter. I was just thinking I may put it on a slide, so I'll keep it that size. So we will start and work out and put on here exactly what we need. So first thing to do, analyse what you've got. That looks like one column. It is. And that looks like another. Awesome. Is that one column? Might be. Might not be. It depends. But we'll say we'll have one. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then go back and look at this team one. It is actually split, and my rationale for splitting it was putting the graphics, giving the graphics a place of their own to live. So once we think about that, then it's 8 for the details, 9, 10, 11, 12 columns that we need. And then we need to think about the rows. The rows actually pretty easy. You always use the rows, the most rows. You use the most columns as well. So whichever is the big one. So think about the EXIF information. You think about that. It was the one with 5 columns at the bottom that we used for the number of columns. Same in here. So we need 12 columns and we need 6 rows. So 12 by 6. Let's go in here. And can we draw that out? So 12 columns, 6 rows. Absolutely nothing like what we want, but we're not going to worry about that at this stage. Well, we know we're going to want it the full size. So first thing to do is drag it out like that. And I don't want just that bit. Let me get my other tool and just drag it out so it fits the page. Now, there could be a lot of fiddling to make this work. So I happen to know what width I want the position and the other 8 columns at the end. So if we make those right, whatever's left is what we're stuck with. So let's see how we go with that. So that's the first one. And then the others are from the end. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And I do believe from memory they were, I think they were 80. That looks about right. Now, then you've got a problem with, well, how do I deal with the others now? Well, we know the first one needs to be quite large. And if we move it, then we lose the thing with B. But if we hold the Shift key down, we don't. We can stretch that out. So take that up to about there. C and D need to be a bit bigger just to fill this gap at the end. And I would suggest it's probably D that needs to be bigger. So I'm going to take that out. That actually twanged. I could feel that twang. You may have seen it twang. And when you look down at the bottom here, you've got 1280 by 720. So the table is the size that I wanted precisely. And it's all neatly scaled in terms of the column sizes are correct as well. Okay, so far so good. Right, what about the rows that we've got? Not quite. The top one needs to be a little bit smaller, doesn't it? So if I make that smaller, like that, that solves the problem there. But it gives us the problem here that while these were about right, we now need to stretch them down, but it scaled each one to be the same size. It didn't scale the bottom one more than any of the others. So they are equal. So that is the framework that we need, and now we are good to go in terms of formatting it. Right, okay, so let's start at the top. We've got the information that we need at the top in terms of the titles. So I'm going to go in the first cell And I do believe there is a cursor in there, but it's going to be in the top corner. So Premier League. Now, why aren't we seeing anything? Oh, I wonder what's going on here. Well, I made a change when I was working with this. What you will see in your table in terms of what font will be used and what colour will be used depends on a text style. So if we flick over to our text styles and have a look, we have here, and I'm showing everything from, well, I've got this showing in a way that's a hierarchy. So we have a base style, and coming off the base style we have a body style, and coming off the body style we have the table body style, and that is what will determine what this actually looks like. So if we go into there and we edit the table body style and we look at what the font is, you can see it's Avenir. What the colour is white, and that's why we can't actually see it at the moment, but we will when we put a background on it. So that is where that's coming from. If you ever open up a file and you're thinking that's not what I'm expecting to see, I expected plain text in black, check the table body style. Right, but it is correct here, and this one was position. But to see it, we're going to have to grab that whole row and apply a colour, and this document has a document palette, and the background colour I'm looking for is in there. So that's the background colour we want. The text isn't exactly correct in terms of alignment and all the rest of it, but at the moment we can ignore that. This here is the team. Now you might think, just a minute, you've missed one. No, I haven't, because remember we talked about it being merged. Then we've got played, and then we've got won, and drawn, and lost, and goals for, so I'll just put for, against, and difference, and then points at the end, the most important one. And formatting this is incredibly simple, so grab hold of it, make it the size that you want, and what I'm attempting with that is to get it as big as I can have it without it cutting anything off, and that looks about right. I couldn't have it any bigger than that, but maybe 18 would be better, particularly because I want to make it bold. Then I want to use the alignment, so I want it centre. Do I want it centre aligned? I do. I want them centre aligned, but I also want them centre aligned vertically, so I am bringing on my table panel and I'm using the vertical positioning to position it vertically. So far, so good. Right. We also, as you can see, have the rest of the colours in there. There's a lot of colours and there's a lot of data. Right, I think I do have the data. So as I said, this was live as of Friday night. So this is some of the data that I'll be using. But you can see we've got City, United, Leicester, Chelsea, and we've got up here. So that is the body of the data, and luckily it's in the same format. So I'm going to take that off there, and I'm going to come down to, we don't have position, so it's team, and paste it in there. And that's not what I want, is it? Come on. You talk about worked in rehearsals. There we go. Oh, I need West Ham as well, don't I? Naughty me, I've missed West Ham. What are West Ham doing that high up in the Premier League, Mike? West Ham are usually propping up everybody else. That's alarming. Okay, so I've grabbed that. If you don't, as you've just seen, if I paste it all into one cell. But as long as where I'm pasting it is the same size in terms of vertical, horizontal, etc., like that, then it will paste in. Okay. Now, obviously, position is really straightforward. It's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And again, remember that you can't see it because of the format that I've got applied to it. Right, okay. So let's get the colours sorted out in the background. So I'm going to take the first row there, like that. And as I said, I do have, in the fill in here, I do have these colours. So the top colour was this very lurid one, but I seem to have grabbed too much there. So let me just make sure that I have only got that and go and choose that for a fill. So the really, really bright one, that one. And work down with it. So go to the fill, swatches, choose the next one. And that one. Rinse and repeat. So 1, 2, 3. And 4. And the last one down the bottom there is 5. There we go. Right, obviously we're going to need to do something with that text, and we've got other things to do as well, but we're getting there. Right, move that out of the way. So this cell here needs to be merged. All those 5 need to be one cell. So select them, right click, merge, or you can use table merge from the menu. It took on the colour of the top row, which is absolutely correct, so I've got no problem with that. And then the rest is fairly simple. This needs to be white text. And again, it's a bit bizarre that the font colour is set to what the background is. Don't understand it, but we do have white, so we can set the text to white. We obviously need all of that to be much bigger and centre aligned. So we could probably have that quite large. There we go, 24 points. Do the centering and merging option. So we need that to be centre aligned, and we need it to be vertically aligned. And again, that is coming from the vertical position in here. That's got it in the right place. Okay, so far so good. Anything else wrong at the minute? Not yet. Not yet. Don't worry about this column. We're coming back to it. But the borders on the inside of the whole thing were white. So I'm going to select everything in there and go to the table panel where we will find the borders. So in the border option here, it's all of them. We want all the borders on that to be white. So pick up white. That probably is enough, 0.5, but we could get away maybe with taking it up a bit. And then click away and you can see you've got the white borders really coming together now. Okay, there's a couple of things we need to do. This area here is going to have the graphic in it, but you don't actually put the graphic in a cell. I've got it hovering meaningfully over the top. So this bit here needs to be merged. So the word team is going to be in the middle of those two cells. So let's merge those. Now that still leaves us with a problem that we've got a border on this that we don't particularly need. So I'm going to select those cells, and going back in here, we don't want a border. So where we've got the border on the left hand side, we don't want one. So in fact, you can either make it transparent or you can actually take it in there and turn it off. And that will take the border away from the left hand side. Now, appreciate that looks a bit odd at the moment. And these cells here, I would probably align them to the left, just so they are, the names of the teams are actually all aligned. Again, so far, so good. But we've only got the graphics left now. So let's start with the individual little graphics next to each team. And I do have those. I've got them in here. So I'm going to just drag and drop the whole lot in. And they're all on top of one another. But tell me you've not done something weird with that. Oh, you've done something weird with that. I'll drag them to the side. Then hopefully we'll be able to manipulate them from there. Where have you slung them now? I don't know where it's put them. Right, okay, let's do it one at a time. Let's take the city one because they're at the top. So let's bring that on. So we've got this graphic. I think he's putting it behind it, isn't it? Are you putting it behind it? Let me see what you're doing. No, it's at the top. Right, let's try that. There we go. Okay, so let's put that next to city there. And then let's do the same with United. Not picking it up from the finder, but there we go. There's United. So put that in approximately the right place. And you can see there, you only really need to think about the horizontal placement, because the vertical, it will tell you if it's right or not. Okay, I was about to put Chelsea in, but apparently Leicester a third. Right, let's put that in the right place, and then we're on to Chelsea.
You sound surprised. Playing good football.
Well, I am surprised. Well, it's particularly with West Ham. You know what West Ham are like. Right, and there's West Ham. So let's bring that on. Right, we've got 2 more graphics to place. So they're good as far as they're going, aren't they? It's looking amazing, even if I say so myself. Right, I've got 2 more graphics to place. I've got the League Lion. So let's drag the League Lion on. There he is. Little bit on the big side, but you can, of course, scale. So put him in the right place. And then we need the Premier League text logo underneath. So I've got one of those as well. Again, a little bit big, but we'll just scale that down and put it in the right place. Are we finished? Well, I'm lining this up so it looks absolutely fabulous. Are we finished? Or is there something we've forgotten? Right. I can tell you that is actually totally correct. Save for one thing which will happen 7 times if we do something. That should give you a clue. What have we got 7 of on there? Do you have any questions while I'm pondering that?
No, Andrea made a...
Hang on. If you're going to speak, I need to turn it on. Right.
Andrea made a comment earlier. She's had an issue where she once selected all in Publisher, set the font, went to type in after, it didn't save the formatting.
No.
Apart from that, no questions.
We'll ponder that. But it can be a bit finicky, as you've seen. I'm still getting, even though this isn't 1.9, it's 1.9.1, I'm still getting a few issues and glitches in terms of the interface and what it's showing me. So I agree with you. Right, okay, Peter, taking a little break there. Peter says group the logos, etc. Yes, you could. I mean, this logo here with the lion and the Premier League thing, they definitely probably need grouping. But rather than ponder about grouping them, why would we be grouping them? And if it's because we would want to do that and group the whole thing, so if we were to move it to another page or another document, everything would go with it, then yes, we could group it. Oh, but we don't want to group it because we want to do clever things, cleverer than grouping. Right, this logo here needs to stay where it is. Stay where it is, which means we have the pinning option. At the moment, if I were to move the table, that happens because they are separate elements. I want to pin that exactly where it is. So if I click pin, it's pinned. If I go to the United one, and I'm using a pin, but it's a floating pin. Right, a floating pin as opposed to an inline pin. An inline pin, if the text moves, the graphic will move. A floating pin means lock it right there. So all I'm doing, I've pinned the whole lot, apart from the lion and the text. So if I move this now, it goes with it. Not grouped, it's pinned. Okay, we'll take that one and we'll float him, and we'll take the text and we'll float that. Then we'll move that out of the way, and you can actually see it here. If you follow from the shape itself down there, there is actually a pin. It is pinned. So if we are now to move the table, everything goes with it. Awesome. You could, as you go in here, you see you do still have the graphics separate from the table, but they are pinned. And when you do this, you've got your table and these are now inside it. The elements are inside it and they're represented by a little pin next to it. Okay, is that good? Is that good? I was pleased with that one. That was very good. Oh, Renee says still in awe. Renee's lost the ability to speak. It gets better than this because obviously your next problem's going to be next week when you need to redo it. Or you want to make like La Liga, then are you going to start again? Well, you might. Odds are you'd probably edit that one, but just in case you need to do it again. Right, let's make a table. Remember we had 12 and 6, but we did merge some together. But we had 12 and 6. It was 12 and 6, wasn't it? So we had 12 columns and we had 6 rows. So let's take that up. Okay. Now with this one, I'm not going to recreate it. You've seen me do it once. You do not need to see me do it twice. But we need to do clever things. Right, what we have here is a table that's all formatted. And it's got colours on it, meaning, you know, like it's starting at the top and it's going down and it has a meaning with it. What if you did want that somewhere else? Well, copying and pasting that is a start. But if you select the table and you have, and I'm using the same options up here. So I've got my text frame, I've got my fields, table formats and pinning, because these were the things I was going to show you today. So obviously we've pretty much been through this. But we have a whole other panel to play with when it comes to tables. And this is table formats. I don't know why it's not called table styles either. It's just not. So we have text styles and we have frame styles. We have all other kinds of styles. But with tables, we have formats. And you can see I've already been in there once, but I'm going to go in there again just because I can. Right, I have this table selected, the clever one. I am going up to the top and I'm going to choose Add Format from Selection. And it adds a format 1. So hold that thought with format 1. So I will go to this table and we will apply format 1. And we have all of the colours and everything else we need applied to it. It gets even better than that. Right, let's say I wanted the whole of the league, or I certainly wanted more than that. So in here, I need to add, I want one for the title at the top, so the headings, but let's say I want the top 10 teams, then that would actually be 11, wouldn't it? Now, all of a sudden, things aren't looking quite so dandy, because let's take this. Oh, it crashed. Oh, no. You know, we were talking about glitches. Shall we see if it recovers properly? Luckily, I think I did press save. It didn't, did it? Oh, naughty, naughty, naughty. Let me have a look at the pages. We've got the one that we did, but it's lost this bit. It's fine. It's fine. Let's get the panels up. It's also hidden the panels from me. Okay. Go to view and get my stuff from here. So it's telling me they're there. Table formats is available. Yes, but where on earth have you put it? Ah, got it. Hidden it on yet another screen. Okay. It didn't save that, so we'll pick it up at the point we're saving it and try not to have it die a death again. So this is the table I've designed today. I go up on the table formats to add format from selection and it adds it. Let's save. Right, and then down here I put a table, and the first table I had 6 rows in it, but the second one had 11. So let's put this in and we'll do it this way. So it had 11 and this way it had 12, and I'm only putting 12 in because that's what the other one had. Okay, so put 12 in. Right, and then I'm going to get this to be the right size, which is the whole thing. So let's drag it down to there. And then before it decides to throw its toys out of the pram again, I'll save it again. And I will apply the format. Okay, it looks all right, but it's not quite right. What's going on? Right, let's do a count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why is this going back to the other colour? Because in here, we had 5 colours. And the dark colour only showing at the bottom. That's strange. In fact, the bottom 2 are the darker ones. And what we've then got is alternating, but the top one's different. Oh, it's doing weird things. Yeah, this is the problem. And you think, well, I've done my style and it's right, I've applied it, it's not right. Is it right if we've got fewer? It seems to be, but maybe it isn't. Right, what you need to be thinking about is, in here, this is a style definition. It's a style definition for a table. And what I would like is to have these colours repeated twice. So I want 2 to 6 to be those colours, and then 7 to 11 to be those colours. So it's a repeating, it's like alternating rows, which you can do. This is the way to do alternating rows, but not 1, 2, 1, 2. I want you to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And we're not seeing that at the moment. And that's because of the definition in here. Now, this is saying format 1. You'll freak out when you see this dialog box. We're going to edit the format. It's like a style, but it's complicated, isn't it? It's complicated because there's a lot of information in there. So first of all, this is saying format 1 and the name is format 3. Well, that doesn't match. So let's put league table, and then I'm going to put demo. So it was a league table done in the demo. And I want the name of it over here to be league table in the demo. Now this is referring to this here. So that's actually the heading or headings. This one is a level 1. That's who's first. So a level 1. This one, a level 2. And so forth. Because I can see by the colours that they're going down. So we've got another level 3, a level 4 and a level 5. You don't have to do all of this, but it'll be easy when you go back to it if you think, oh, I know exactly what that is. Right, so that's a level 5. I'm not making any particular changes to that. I'm not doing anything very clever with it at all. But what I can do is in this preview over here. And the reason that this isn't working properly is all these triangles that are kicking around. Right, these are referring to it's like putting a freeze on it and saying, the bottom 2 rows of this table, however many rows are in it, need to be that colour. And that's what these little diamonds are doing. Well, I don't want that. It's not a calculated table. It doesn't have numbers at the bottom. So if I click down, that gets rid of that. Right away behind me, it's now working properly. Well, nearly properly. We're getting there. Okay. It's locked that one on the top. So it means that row 2 is the only row that has the lightest colour on it. Because it thinks we want 2 header rows, and we don't. We want 1. So if I take that up, now it's working. I've got 5 colours and 5 colours. These here are locking the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and I don't need that at all. So let's take those back that way. Don't need any fixed headers on those. So take this across over here. And what that definition now says in there is when this style is applied to a table, or format, when this format is applied to a table, there is only 1 header row. Make that the dark colour and the rest of them rinse and repeat in blocks of 5. If I had 13, it would just have the next 2 colours from it, but it would be working on a block of 5. This is how you can make alternating rows, by just having 2 in there. But I've done it with 5. Principle is exactly the same. And you've edited it. Wow. Yep, headings there, default cell formatting's over here, and you can keep going if you do want them different colours, because there are 13 in there, I think. Yep, there are 13 in there. And OK. And that is how you would apply it to another table. So let's get another page here and put a table on it. Because I've got this selected over here, it's even applied it automatically. And as I go in here and keep upping this, you can start to see the banding. There we go. And that's the bottom one. And then, of course, I would put that there. 1 header and as many bands, I've done it in 5s, as it needs. So if that was the Premier League, it probably wouldn't work out because it's not 25 teams, is there? They're 22.
20.
Oh, 20. Oh, 20 would work nicely. So if there's 20, that would actually work nicely. It would just be the first 4 bands. So from there all the way up to there. Okay. Any questions about that one? Oh, Peter Williamson. George just dropped. Okay, Mike, give me the questions.
First question's from John D.
Yeah.
Can you place the team logos as inline graphics that act like type characters?
Yes, you can if you pin it in line, but in a table, it does go a bit strange. But yes, you could.
And the other question was from Paul Conaway. Why would you pin instead of group?
Because if I group and I move as a group, that's fine. But it's a better way to make sure you don't inadvertently lose something in the translation at some point. It's just pinned to where it needs to be, and then it's automatically grouped. It's not you manually grouping it, where you could actually go into it and then manually move the graphic or lose the graphic. So pinning is just a better way of doing that, really. And Renee says, can you still change the colours? When you say change the colours, there's two ways of changing the colours. You could go in and change it manually, or you could go in and edit the style and change the colours that way. So two different ways to do that. Okay, right. Now I did have one question in the week. No, actually I had two. I'm lying, I had two. Right, one question was about working with data from spreadsheets, which you saw me do in here. I actually pasted the data in, so that was working fine. But the question was, working with data from spreadsheets, and the answer is, does it work? Does it work? Can you take the data? Well, yes, you've seen me take the data, but you do have to think carefully about exactly what you're doing before you do that. So I'm going to take this table and I'm going to apply the basic format to it. And I don't think we need anything like that number of rows. So we'll go for 12 and make it all a bit bigger. Right. So I have a basic plain table sitting there waiting for data. But you might have a document where you've got all your stuff laid out here and you want to put your data in from wherever. So if I show you what I've got in terms of, this is the data you saw me work with. So let's say I want to take exactly the same data, but this time I'll take the headings with it. So let's take it down to Everton. Okay, so copy, which you saw me do, and it worked. Right, paste. Yeah, not quite. Right, why did it work the first time and not the second? Well, first it's tried to do this in terms of text. It's pasted it in, but it's pasted it in as text, which is not what you want. So let's get rid of that. Right, can you paste it in any other meaningful kind of way? And this is quite interesting because when I pasted it in the first time, that was what I got. So you will get one of two things. You will either get that or you'll get it in a text block. Now, what was the difference? Well, this time I had the Move tool selected and it brings the data in. It looks lovely, doesn't it? Oh, it looks lovely. Right, but what are we actually looking at? And you might say, well, we're looking at the data. And we can size it. We can do all kinds of things with it. And it's fine. It's absolutely fine. So yes, it's worked. Yeah, question is that a table? No, it's not. How do we know it's not a table? Well, if we go to our layers panel and look at what we've got hundreds and hundreds of little text blocks. So Chelsea is a text block and the numbers are a text block and this is a text block. Even the lines are not a table. They're vector and you can format them. So if you wanted to format these lines in some kind of hideous way, you could do that, but it's not a table. So if what you want is quick and dirty, I've not got all day to play around with formatting a table because I don't know how everything works in Affinity Publisher, then by all means copy and paste. Perfectly valid. If what you want is a printed document with a table in it and you're happy for it to look like that, then just copy and paste it. You don't need to worry about it. But what I did that was slightly different was I had a table ready for the data to go in. Right, if I click in the first cell and paste, it pastes it as text in the first cell. But if I make a selection, it adds what it needs. So it's added a couple of extras because I didn't have enough columns, and the data goes into a table. So this, you've got options. You've got many options. You could type the data in, you can copy and paste the data in, but if you have a table ready for the data, it works best. That works best. Other than that, you can copy and paste it in and it be a vector. Now that was from Excel. What happens with numbers? So I'm going into a numbers file, which is very basic by comparison, to the other file. Let's bring that on. There's the data. Okay. And in here, numbers is slightly different in that you can have multiple tables per sheet, whereas normally you can't. So working with this one, if I copy the entire table and I drag it over, and I'm going to need another table, aren't I? Another page. Let's have another page. Let's have a couple just in case. Right, let's go down to that one. And in there, paste it in. And what we get again, it's slightly different. It looks a little bit better. But all of these are vectors, which is perfectly fine as long as you're not going to need to do any fancy formatting in Affinity Publisher with it. Now, again, data-wise, if we had a table, so let's go back and look at this. We have got here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 10 columns. Okay, so I'm going to do a copy there. So I need 10 by 6. So I'm copying that, and in here, insert a table. Not concerned at all about that. We need 10 by 6. Was it 6? 5? Yes, it was 6. And that one needs to be 10. So we now have a table that's big enough for the data. Hang on, that switched back to 9. Stop playing with my mind. Right, go to the beginning, paste it in. It pastes it as text, is what we would expect. But if you've got the whole table and you paste it in, there you go. Don't know why it's left. Oh, that's because there was a title. There was a title and it's probably put that somewhere, but we just can't see it. So I'll delete that row and there's the rest of the data. And then if you scoot that up to 6, which was where we were at, there's your data. And that is an Affinity Publisher table that will allow you to edit and format to your heart's content. Those are 2 ways to deal with data from Excel or numbers, or even a CSV file. Wherever your data's from, that is 2 ways to handle it. 1, you bring it in as vectors, which is not a native Affinity Publisher table. Or 2, you have a receiving table ready and you paste the data into that receiving table. And then you do have a native Affinity Publisher table. But there is a 3rd way, which I'm not going to do with this data because it wouldn't make that much sense. But we'll save that file and we'll close it down. Oh, we don't need the Leicester one either. Oh, that's where they all are. Open them all in the background, which was not what we wanted. Right, we need a file. So I'll get an A4 file with 1 page. So remember what we're doing here. This is the 3rd way to deal with data. And I am going to use a table and then I'm going to do it another way. So this time I'm going to bring on a table. And might look a bit squashed there, might make it a bit bigger. So there's my table, but that's nothing like what I need it to look like. In fact, I don't want the table at all. I know that sounds like sacrilege, but the table's there just to hold my data. What I do need is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, let's say 6. So I'll take this down from 56 to 6. That's a bit better. But I will spread it out a bit. Okay. Now, it's going to look appalling until we format it. But this is the 3rd way to work with data from Excel, numbers, wherever. And this one is a data merge. Now, I'm not going to get deep into data merge. If you want a session on data merge, let me know. We had a look at it in MacBites After Hours, but if you want a dedicated session, then let me know. Data merge is where you take the data from one source, Excel, and you merge it with an Affinity Publisher file, the one you're looking at, and you create, in essence, what used to be called a mail merge in Word. You merge the data with the design and you get a new document. I'm going to do what I need to do to hook the data up, but don't worry about that bit because the demo today is tables and how I'm going to use them for layout. What I actually want is to have a name at the top. So I'm actually going to go into this table and start moving these around. And I don't want that for a start. All right, I want that at the top. Then I want quite a big gap, like that. Then I'm moving down here. I want quite a big gap at the bottom. And have I got one cell too many? 1, 2, 3. I think I've got one cell too many. Oh no, 1, 2, 3. That's right. Yep, that's fine. So that's the kind of layout that I want. I want some text at the top. I then want a graphic, and then I want more text, more text, more text, and then a little paragraph of text. So what I'm going to do with that is move that up a bit because it doesn't need to be that big. Let's go down there again. And that one too. So the biggest bit I want for the text is at the bottom. But that isn't going to get the job done. In essence, what I want here is a title. This bit here is going to be the show title because it's MacBytes data. Then I've got when it was released. So that's going to be a date. Then I've got the duration of the show. Right. And this bit here is what we call a contextual intro, which we are in the middle of adding. But that's what I want. That looks appalling, but it isn't going to look appalling when we've finished. So first thing first, why are you selecting everything? Right, I want a different font. So I'll go for something that's all capitals and looks amazing. So let's make that much bigger, like that. I'll also change the colour of it. We will go for the nice orange. And with that one, we want it centred that way. And in the table, we want it centred vertically. So I'm just doing that. You've seen me do the alignment a million times. Right, the show title's going to be there. These fonts could be better, couldn't they? So I'll grab hold of that and we'll change that to Avenir, which if I could spell it, we'd be able to find. Right, Avenir. That one can probably be a bit bigger than 12 because that's the title of the show. So you do want that to be bigger. Then you've got the release date, the duration of it, and the contextual intro, which sometimes can be quite long. So I'll actually take that down to about 9 points. That's what I want, but at the moment, that's not good. Plus the fact there's 136 episodes. So it's going to take me a while to copy and paste and fill things in. So that's where your data merge comes in. Now, that presupposes you've got your data, and I do have some data here when it opens up in Excel. There we go. So there are all the MacBytes episodes, all the way up to 135. But I said 136. There was 108A, which was when the series took over. It was a short show, but probably one of the best, to be honest, wasn't it? Right, so the information that I've got in here is the name of the show, which is actually the number. Then I've got the show title. Then I've got the duration, the release date, the show art, because I want some pretty pictures in it. And there is a contextual intro, but I've only done the first 3. So that's the data that we're working with. Okay, that's the data. Let's get the data out of the way. And let's bring on the Data Merge Manager, which is available from View Data Merge. I need in here to go and pick up the data. So in here is my data merge, and there is my MacBytes shows. So open that. That opens it up over here. That's all you need to do with that. So we'll keep that out the way now. Nothing magical has happened at this point because I need to bring back on this panel I've been working with all day, on and off, for the fields. Now, in the data merge, we've hooked it up to the Excel spreadsheet. In the fields, we get to access the actual information, the name, the title, duration, release, date, show art, pretty picture, and contextual intro. So where this says title, we don't actually want it to say title. We want it to have a field in it instead. And where it says show title, we want it to have the show title. So I'm replacing static text with a field that it's going to pull through from Excel. In the released information, I want when it was released. In there, I want the duration. So I'm leaving the titles on this, the labels, so I know which is which. So this one was duration, so let's put the duration in. And then we've got the contextual intro, and I'm replacing that text. And that's the contextual intro. So far, so good. Still doesn't look great, but give me time. But we don't have the graphic at the moment. But if we create an image placeholder, so let's just make an image placeholder, we can hook a path and an image name up to that placeholder. Before I do that, these images are 1600 by 9, well, 16:9 ratio. So in here, I need to make sure that this is 160 by 90. That's the easiest way to do it. Then make sure that it's hooked up together, and then place that. And I could probably get away with that being a bit bigger than that if I had it outside the text. So I'm making sure that when that does scale, it scales proportionally. So let's take that back like that. Okay. This one at the moment, not actually hooked up. Let's go hook it up. Let's bring this on here. And this one is the show art. So double click that. It doesn't actually show you the graphic, but it does indicate, okay, you've done this, all hooked up. Awesome. Still needs a bit with the formatting though, because it's going to look like that. And what we actually want is that there is no formatting on the table. We're only using the table for layout. So if we go back to the table and we go to the stroke of it, and we say we don't want one at all, that will make the layout look much better. Now it just starts to look like a layout. Obviously it's fractionally outside this margin and stuff, but I'm not even going to worry about that. The next thing you need to do is save the file, just in case. So I'll call that merge. And you bring back the data merge. It's already hooked up to MacBytes. You can in here preview with a record, so it will show you what that would look like. Brilliant. Happy with that. And then you hit generate and it creates a completely new file. Here it is merging and creating a new file. That's the merge that's happening up there. And there's the file. And it's got in it all of the MacBytes. Look at this. Let's hide the margins. Can we do, yeah, Command and W. There we go. So you can see all of the shows with all of the details. And it's made a document of hundreds of pages. Oh, what's the last one? Oh, last one was Christmas. Keep going. That was last year. There we go. So we have Biggles Niggles on the Hungarian keyboard and Mystic Meg and the MacBytes, Magic MacBytes Maths for Muggles. Not easy to say these things. But it's generated a 136-page document for you from the data in Excel, even the images. Now, that was like a bit of a demo so you could see that the tables are receiving the data. So all of these in here, they're tables. The table's still there, and it's being used for the placement of the data that you've pulled in from Excel. Would you actually do that? Well, maybe, maybe not. But where I would use it, we are actually going to use it for this, is if I make a new file. So it's going to be another A4 one. And I probably do need to turn that back on. Let's say I'm going to get, I want this time multiple records per page, not just one page in a table. Right, you have here this data merge layout tool. Don't mistake this for the tables, but doesn't it look similar? But it's not the same. And what I would do with this is I would do exactly the same as I did with the last one. So I am adding the data. So there's our data merge and there's our data. So let's open that. That puts it in here. That populates over here in our fields down below. So up here, I could put a text block there. So this isn't a table, that's just a text block. And put in there the name. Obviously, I'm going to want to do magic things with that in terms of lining it up and making it pretty and all of the rest of it. So we had it a kind of orange, didn't we? Let's go get the right orange. There's the right orange. We would need that bigger. Are we still on the same bit? Grab hold of it, make it bigger. And that would probably do. You could change the font if you want. It was Couture, not Courier. That's because I'm spelling it wrong again. There we go. Couture. Right, same with the graphic. So just put an image placeholder there. to grab that graphic. But again, I need to make that a set size. So I always make it, so it's easy, 160 by 90. And then, and I know that's far too big. Do this, make it smaller. So make it smaller like that. Let's get this, grab it back. And as I'm doing this on the top left corner, you can see what's happening. It is creating the other elements for you. Why this involves tables is the information underneath. I'm going to use a table for it. So I don't need much in the way of a table. Something similar to that. Let's make that the same size as the graphic above it. So that's snapping to it. This one was the title, so I want to put the show title in there, and I probably need a little bit of room for that. Then I want to put some text in that says release date, and put the release date in. Then we need the duration. Again, double click duration to add it in. I'm not going to put the contextual intro in because it was a bit on the long side there, so there's a little bit too much text for it to work in this format. But there we go. Now, title, I'm probably going to want to give it enough room to wrap round if it needs to. These two I would align vertically, so I know where they're going. But that one's going to go from the top because it's going to be a different size. So I want it bigger than that. And some of them are quite long. As you saw, the titles were quite long. But that might work well. What I haven't done, of course, is marry up this image placeholder with some data. So let's go get the fields for that and put the show art in. And this might be nice if it was like not black. Slightly black, but not completely black. So more of a very deep grey, which is why we have grey here like that. You see, if you make it black, it doesn't look that much different, but trust me, it's just nice if it's kind of a grey. And you're done, believe it or not. Hang on a minute. I don't think we are done. What's going wrong with this? That's better. All I did was cut that and paste it in. Why that didn't do that in the first place, I don't know. But just make sure that in each of the, and you can have 8 on a page, 16 on a page, whatever you want. Just make sure you've got all the elements in each of those that you actually want. Always a good idea to save it. So merge catalogue. And then go back to your data merge, and you've got, this is the second way you've done data merge with a table. Hit generate, it starts generating a new file, which is up there. And when it's done, you will have a merged set of data. We forgot one thing. Oh, doesn't it look terrible? It looks terrible with the borders on it. Let's get rid of that. No. Let's get back in here. Right, that one. We need to select that table, and we need to use all of the features we've already used to get rid of it. So get rid of our border on it. So we don't want a border anywhere on that. Make sure we are selected. All of it. Come on, all of it. That one there. And we don't want a border on it. And we can see it's disappeared. So save that file again. All I'm going to do is hit generate. And it's going to do another data merge. And this time it should look pretty because it won't have that on it. Now, what you can do to make that look better is add some delineation yourself. So that's what it would look like. And now that's not quite right because one looks like it's running into another. But if we go back over here and just use the pen tool and click at the top and at the bottom, I'm holding the shift key down to make sure that it's straight. And we make that, instead of it being black, we make that grey. And we do the same thing here. Hang on, need to come out of that first or it will link it up. Take that across there, make that grey, should be grey to start with. Are we all grey? Come out, are we grey? We are, and it's drawn another line. Come on, stop drawing lines. Let's go back over there. And I'm going to hit generate again. So you have an original file and then it generates other files. This time it should be absolutely spot on perfect. Are you going to be spot on perfect? You are, look at that. So that's what it looks like. Here's all your other pages. So this is when we started doing the posters. Oh, look at my boy. There we go. and we have an absolutely perfect catalogue. But data underneath here, all of this text down here, is in a table. You can actually grab it and format it if you want. You can edit it. So if it was shifty pigs, not shifty cows, there we go. You can actually edit it. But instead of you manually creating the 34-page document, it creates it for you. But it's using a table for the layout. Right, I think I'll go in and I'll wrap up the slides and then we'll take questions. That would be a jolly good idea. Okay, oh, there's the table that we made. Right, we looked at a range of tools. We looked at the table tool, which actually draws the table for you. Then we've got the panel, which controls quite a lot of the format of the table. But when you're working with, I'd say a style, but a collection of table formatting, then you have the table format panel to work with. And the rest was pretty much tips and tricks in terms of how you can make tables that are interesting. And that is actually, when I said I did that one, and it had the dark border around it, that's because it came from there. So that I actually used in a presentation. So that was a lot of the tips and tricks. So we're in the middle of Mad March, literally in the middle today, where we're going live every Sunday at 3 p.m. UK time. Today's was obviously Creative Tables in Affinity Publisher, which will be available on demand as soon as we have finished. Next time, we are looking at mastering master pages in Affinity Publisher. And we're wrapping up this season of Mad March with Adobe Bridge. It is completely free. I have to caveat that, don't I, before people think, Adobe subscription. No, it's completely free. They do a couple of tools that are completely free, but they don't exactly shout about it. I don't know why. We have also covered the export persona in Affinity Designer, so the links for that will be flying your way. That is available on demand, as is what we did last week, which was mastering blend modes in Affinity Photo, also available on demand. Now, in fact, everything that we do is available on demand. So youtube.com/Elaine Giles is where you need to be. You could subscribe while you're there. That way you will get notified. But there's also the little notification bell. If you hit the notification bell, YouTube will let you know whenever we're live and tell you what we're doing. If you would like to get in touch with me, those are probably the best ways to attempt to get in touch with me. Although Twitter and Facebook, what can I say? But you can get in touch with me. There's also a contact form at elainegiles.co.uk if you would like to use that. And of course, we love you guys. We love sharing with you. And if you have enjoyed it, found it useful, please give us a like, because it really does make a difference with YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with everything that we are doing, then you need to go to elainegiles.com/VIP, where we will send you a mail every now and then. In fact, quite frequently at the moment, we also send you direct links to specific parts of the video. So you will get in your index, in the mail, there'll be an index to the content of each video, because some of them are quite long, aren't they? Right, let's take some Q&A. So I'm going to try and find the questions, because my trusty assistant's just disappeared. Typical, just as you're about to start, isn't it? Oh, I see questions. Okay, now some of these I'll probably have answered, won't I? So let's have a look. Andrea, where the font disappeared. Well, as you've seen with me today, we've managed to crash it once, and there's a couple of glitches where it's not showing you what it should be showing you. So I would suspect that that was a glitch. Right, Renee, there's no autofill. We dealt with that one, didn't we? No, but possibly for a good reason. It depends on how you look at it. Depends on what you want from it. Right, answered the one about the inline graphics, answered the one about pinning, answered the one about changing the colours. Yes, you can. You can do whatever you need to do with it. Right, so one from Kim. Can you change the rows as a group as the standing? So you'd like to keep the logos with the name. Can you change the rows as a group as a standing? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Kim. Can you give me a little bit more information? If you want to keep the logos with the name, you could pin them to the name, if that's what you mean. Right. John says, can you convert text to a table where there are tabs between the column data and vice versa? I've not actually tried that, John. I'll be honest with you. Not tried it. I have tried text I have tried working with text as a data merge source, and that works brilliantly. But I'd have to try the tab separating and if you could copy and paste. Not actually tried it, because I've been busy doing all of the rest of it. Right. Peter, if required, is it possible to create 135 separate files for next time for emailing individuals, but personalised letters? I believe it can, but I can't remember. I did it, but I can't remember if I did it automatically through Affinity Publisher or if I split a PDF. I can't remember which way I did it, but that's really more to do with data merge. So if you want a data merge session, let me know. Let me know. Right, and then Mike's put some comments underneath. So one from Andrea, or Andrea, depending on how we're pronouncing it. So grateful for these tutorials. Tables have been a pain for me. I make teacher planners that have registration pages you'd like to make pretty and colourful. Never thought of using the shapes. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a thing in the right direction, don't you? Oh, Tracy's had a lot of problems with border shading and alignment. Yet they're all the things that sometimes don't work, that play with your mind. Hopefully this session will help me out. Can see the chat but not the video in the middle of nowhere on 3G. Well, it is available on demand, so it'll be fine. Watch it later. And Renee, still in awe. Okay. Peter, jaw dropped. Loving these, Mike. Loving these. Paul needed to run, but been great so far. Awesome. Oh, and various people have said yes to data merge. Okay, we will hold that thought and we will do data merge. Renee says this does so much, ticks all the boxes you need. Excellent. I am glad to hear it. So I'm up to date on the questions and comments that I can see in here. Have we got any more? Because I can't see the chat. Oh, you disappeared. And I don't want to chat. I can change this to the poster, but at the moment we're still in the Q&A.
We've got Kim.
Was Kim's the one I answered about changing rows as a group? Right. Have we got any more information on that one so I can answer it?
I'd like to keep the logos with the same name.
With the same name?
That's what she says. Oh, with the name.
With the name?
I'd like to keep the logos with the name.
Yeah, well, I asked for a little bit more information, so have you got any more information on that?
No.
Well, if and when we get any, then I'll try and answer it.
Yes, pin to team name.
Yes, you can. I just had it pinned to that empty column, and that way I could align the team name. But yeah, you could just as easily pin it to the team name if that was what you wanted. I just pinned it to the nearest thing. I just wanted it pinned because obviously one of the problems is the data flying all over the place if it's not actually in the table. Grouping is one way to go, but to be honest, it's probably better pinned.
John D. Can you convert text to
done that one, and done Peter's. So it's anything after Peter, which is the 135 separate files.
What's the best way to superpose two tables? When I create a calendar, I need to put date info and other activities info in two separate tables.
Okay, that I can actually show you with a bit of playing around. Right, let's go find a file that I used earlier, which was not the photo book, it was the Sudoku. Right, let's have a look at this one. Right, I didn't show you how I got the other text in here.
Two tables to be formatted separately.
Yep, no problem at all. Right, so if we use this one as an example, and we get rid of the numbers that are up here. So let's get rid of the 7, the 9 and the 6. Okay. The 7, the 9 and the 6 are part of the solution. This here is the solution. Now, what I would tend to do with that is you can just drag that over the top of that and there's no problem at all. If you want so these are two totally separate tables. In fact, if you look at it, they're actually formatted slightly differently, but let's format them amazingly differently. Okay, don't want to do that. What I want to do is grab all the ones that were there. In fact, let's grab the other ones. Let's not do that. Okay, so what I want with these is in the solution, rather than them being this colour, I'd like them to be like bright red, but I don't want to have any bright red in the other one. So I'm formatting this table to be this way. So first of all, let's grab this lot and make those red. So I'm applying some local formatting here and making these red. And I don't want the document ones, I want the Apple ones, and we've got red. Okay, so that's the actual solution. But when you're checking it, this is going to be the puzzle initially. When you're checking it, if you look at this one, I don't particularly want these to be so in your face because they were already there to start with. So when you're checking the solution, you really want to check just the red parts and not these parts. So what I'm doing is formatting. In this case, it's a table with the same data, but it wouldn't matter because the table that's going to be underneath this doesn't have the red in it anyway. So I'm just doing this so we can see a big difference. And I am there. I've not missed anything out, have I? So with that one, if I change the text to be very, very pale, so let's go back to our greys and choose a very pale grey. But we can just see it on the background, something like that. Maybe a bit more, like that. Okay, I've got it formatted very differently. So in this one, you need to see these numbers. But in this one, I want those numbers to kind of merge more into the background. I want you to focus on the red ones. And then all I need to do with this, and I don't know if this would work in your specific circumstances with a calendar, but you could just drag one over the top of the other. Now, to see that manually, I actually happen to have, here's one I had earlier, I happen to have months. So let's take this month started on a Monday. So I already have a pre-configured calendar for that month. So let's say that this one, and I don't know how you're formatting this, but let's say, because we know St. Patrick's Day was then, so I'll make that much bigger and I'll make that green. So let's have a lovely green on that. That doesn't exactly look like it's aligned properly, does it? Maybe I didn't align it properly. No, I did. I did. It's just playing with my mind again. No, there's nothing else in there either. So let's say one calendar, I want to highlight the 17th. And another calendar, so you're keeping two separate calendars, you want to highlight today because, you know, we're doing our thing. So let's say we want to make that very different for that day. Like that. And we'll make that a lovely orange. Let's make that a lovely orange and put some bold on it as well. Right, so we've got two different things happening there. Now, to make this actually work, I'd have to do one of two things. I would either have to make sure that the cell background on the top layer, so this one here, if the cell background of that was white. So let's drag this on and get a fill in that cell of white, because at the moment it's totally transparent. Then technically speaking, when I drag this one over the top of that one, forget the 17th for the moment, the 21st works. Obviously, 17th doesn't work. Now, I could put white on the background of the 17th, but it's not going to do anybody any good because it's behind the top calendar. So what I do on the 17th is actually get rid of it. And then when I drag it over the top, there we go. It's showing both of them. So it's two different ways to do it. Other than that, I don't think so. But will that do what you want it to do? Let me know. Oh, we've got another question there. Oh, I've got three cups there from Renee. Excellent, excellent. Right, can you get these questions while I deal with this last one on how to rearrange columns? Right. So up there, we should be able... Hang on. That's the point. I don't think I've ever moved one. And it doesn't seem to be moving quite nicely. I can do that. Why you no moving? It's not letting me select that. Right, okay, can I do that with it? No, I can't do that with it. Good grief. I thought I could sort that out. Hang on. Just a minute. I've got one over the top of the other, haven't I? Just a minute. Let me drag another one on and keep it simple. Right, let's get into there. Can I actually move that? If I put that on there, I'm moving the whole thing. I've never actually contemplated moving them. That seems such an easy thing, doesn't it? I can insert and delete. But I've tried all the keys and I don't see a key that gives me a hand to grab and move it. Shall we try some keys into... No, it's not doing that either. No, I will find out for you. I will find out for you because surely it does that. Got to do that, surely. What I will say is it's obviously not fully fledged and it's not Excel or numbers. But you can do an awful lot in terms of making a very plain table in Affinity Publisher, doing all of the work in a spreadsheet and then copying and pasting it in and only doing the format in here. But it should at least move a table thing, surely. Insert, merge. We've got a sort. We can do sort options. I would have thought you could do it manually, but I don't see an option. So unless they are hiding it from me, which is a possibility, it's a possibility, leave that with me and I will find out. Right, have we got more questions in the questions here? I think I've done that one and I think I've done that one. So, is there any more questions before we head off and contemplate what we're doing next week, which is master pages? I'm reading. Oh, Peter says, thank you once again. Lots of golden nuggets. You're very welcome, Peter. Very welcome. I like the 3 cups, Renee. Might have to print that out. Okay, in that case, last call for questions. Before we head off. So let me get that on there. And that's what we did today. That was a fun one. That, doing the Gantt chart. So last call for questions. We're also going live, of course, on Friday night. I'm doing more on craft on Friday night by demand. Popular demand, that one was. Right. Master pages, can't wait. Have you got a specific job in mind, Peter? Or is it just generic? Let me know. Tables are fun. But tables can be infuriating when you first start with them because everything's in all different places and stuff. Steve and almost expecting. Are you going to do your masses? Do the mass list. I must show you one of ours. What we do with it. We actually use Microsoft Publisher and we have to rotate it, and then we put all the text in, and we rotate it back. And woe betide if we rotate it the wrong way. We hear about it in stereo. So yeah, it's good. It's good. In fact, Microsoft Publisher's not bad. I know people don't like it. Do you know what put me off it, Mike?
What?
Do you remember the days when they had huge icons with little move vans on? When you did your copy and paste, it actually changed your pointer to a moving van. And I thought, shark jumped. So I didn't bother after that. But it is actually quite a capable application. So we mustn't deride it. It's not bad at all. Okay then, I think we are done. I do believe we are done. But we will be back with you, same time, same place. Oh no, actually I'm lying to you. It's not the same time, same place. It is if you're in the UK, but the clocks are going forward next week. So if you are in the UK, don't forget to put the clocks forward. If you're not in the UK, if you're in the US, things are going to be an hour different. But they're going back to 8 hours and 5 hours difference instead of 7 hours and 4 hours, which plays with our mind. So things are back to normal next week, but we'll lose an hour's sleep, which is never good. But what can you do? Daylight saving and all of that. Okay then, so I'm going to say a good afternoon from me. You're going to have to shout if they're going to hear you. Oh, question. Can I use 2 master pages for 2 different tables, case mentioned above? Yes, you can, because you can nest master pages. So yes, you can. Okay, so let me try and find if I can get Mike to say hello, because things are playing around here. And it moved. I knew it would. Oh, well, let's try and get it working anyway. Which side of that do you actually need to be? No, I'm going to make this work if it kills me. Oh, actually, it might be better if you shouted because it's going to kill me.
And it's goodbye from me.
We will both be here with you next time. In the meanwhile, have a lovely, lovely, lovely Affinity week and we'll see you soon. Stay safe, guys.